Mhm.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. Just so you know, this video is set to recording. I'm going to have it so that it should just show whoever's speaking, but I'm still learning how to use Zoom on this end. Zoom speaker. Okay. Well, welcome. We're going to wait a few minutes. Probably get started at 9:01. I have 8:59 p.m. on my end.
My lip is busted. Guess who busted my lip? I have a 1-year-old who had butted me.
Struggle's real.
What is your name, by the way?
My name is Jess.
Jess. Hi, Jess.
Here's Jen.
Hello.
Hey, Jen.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing great.
Good. All that good food going. So I was just saying I'm
I
going
love
to 9:01.
like meal prepping at night. Everybody's in bed. It's quiet.
Mm.
I can make a mess. Nobody judges me. It's my favorite time.
What are you making?
And I'm actually prepping dinner for tomorrow. So I'm actually going to chat about it in a little bit. I'm making technically cottage pie, but
Yeah.
I did a little bit of learning on what shepherd's pie really is. So it's fun.
Ooh, you're going to share with us.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. I have 9:01 on my end. How about you, Jen?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So welcome to our Scorpio Cosmic Community Call. I see some new faces, so that excites me. Thank you for joining us, ladies. I appreciate it. I wanted to start off tonight just quickly with a prayer with all the recent events going on. I felt that it be necessary before coming together in a group, and that the more people around, there's power in that number and intention. So I'm just going to light a candle here. And if you feel called, I join you to close your eyes, bow your head, put your hand on your heart. And I'd like to say, Pachamama, Source, Great Spirit, God, may the divine light of the universe shine upon us and guide us towards a world of peace and harmony. May we all come together as one, united in our shared humanity, and work towards a future that is filled with love, compassion, and understanding. We pray for the well-being of all people, regardless of their race, religion, or nationality. May we all be blessed with the strength to overcome our differences and embrace our similarities. May we find common ground in our shared values of kindness, generosity, and respect. We may ask for the wisdom to recognize that we are all interconnected and that our actions have profound impact on the world around us. We pray for those who are suffering from violence, oppression, and injustice. May they find comfort in the knowledge that they are not alone and that there are people around the world who stand with them in solidarity. We ask for the courage to stand up against hatred and bigotry wherever it may be found. May we be the beacon of hope for those who are lost in the darkness of fear and ignorance, and pray for the resilience of all of God's children. We pray for the leaders of the world that they may be guided by wisdom, compassion, and a deep sense of responsibility towards their people and all people. May they work together to create a world that is free from conflict and strife. So it is, so it is, so it is. May this prayer serve as a reminder that we are all children of the universe, bound together by our shared humanity. May we always strive towards a future that is filled with peace, love, and understanding. And thank you to each and every one of you for joining me in this live event, or anyone listening later on, for this community prayer of peace. May each of you be protected and empowered to share love in all of your encounters, spreading compassion and remembering to hold in you yourself in love, and so be it. So thank you for joining me for that. And before jumping into Scorpio season, and what that is all about, I wanted to share a quick story that really ties in with Scorpio season, and it's a technique called annual profections. So this is going to be a little bit of an intermediate base. So for anyone who feels that they're a novice or a beginner in astrology, you may hear some things and feel a little lost. Don't worry, I'm going to make it tangible too. So don't feel lost in the jargon, but I want to kind of give a little bit of elevated information as well. So in annual perfections, a certain house becomes prominent that year. So in the first year of life, it starts with the first house. So you're 0 years old. When you're 1 year old, you move into a second house annual perfection. So you go through these 12-year cycles, and whatever house you're in, the ruling planet of the sign of that house is your time lord. So interestingly enough, my daughter and I have the same time lord this year. I'm 35 years old and I'm in a 12th house perfection, Sagittarius rising, making Scorpio my annual perfection, and Mars is my time lord. My daughter is a Scorpio rising. She's 12 years old, and so she's in a first house perfection year, also making Scorpio, and then Mars, her time lord. Also, another common thing that we share is that we both have Jupiter at 29 degrees Aries. She was born right around my second Jupiter return, around 24 years old, which is how we have similar Jupiters. Actually, very similar, almost to the exact minute. So when you have a time lord, all of the transits that happen that year with that planet, it goes from birthday to birthday. So this whole, until I turn 20 or 26, lovely, until I turn 36, Mars is my planet. So every Mars transit is really important, as it is for my daughter. So we just had Mars at 29 degrees Libra, activating both of our Jupiters in an opposition at 29 degrees Aries. So this really ties in. Scorpio traditionally is also ruled by Mars, and so is Aries. So Jupiter was in this mutual reception, having Mars being activated by it. And so what happened was, this was last week on Sunday, I had washed my hair with a new product, and on Monday I woke up with a facial rash. Now Aries rules the head, and Jupiter is in Aries. And Libra rules the skin, and that was Mars, like the god of war and red and irritation, was activating, and Jupiter was expanding it. The worst of it was the day after my sister arrived, when she was here for her trip last week, so she was the proud recipient of witnessing all of this, and then my epiphany of like, oh, look at the astrology story behind it. It peaked on Wednesday when that aspect went exact. And I got a text message from my daughter's dad that she had to be picked up from school because she face planted running the pacer at gym. So she had all these red abrasions on her face, and she had a history of concussion from a previous injury. So she had to go be taken to the hospital. It was this big ordeal. The other fascinating part of this is that Jupiter is situated in her 6th house, which is school and like daily activities. And Jupiter is situated in my 5th house of leisure. And I was on vacation, an anniversary trip with my husband when everything, like the whole trigger of it started. So I wanted to share that. It was kind of the end of like a Libra archetype for Mars for me, and all of my Mars transits have been really active this year. So I love that technique. It's so tangible. And so if you want to learn more and like how to follow along, you can just book a 30-minute reading with me, and I can go through and explain where you're at and what perfection, and it kind of narrows it in, and you can just focus on like one planet for a 12-month period and like really dive in deep, and those archetypes and those transits are really you're gonna feel it more. So it's kind of a cool way to get in deeper with astrology if you're interested. So we're moving into Scorpio season in like 4 days, I think it is. Sun moves in on the 23rd. And Scorpio is a fixed water sign. So one way I like to really think about Scorpio it's the second water placement. So the first water sign is Cancer, and that's ruled by the moon, right? So it's very very emotional and motherly, and all of that is like the Cancer feeling. And then in traditional astrology, Scorpio is ruled by Mars. So this is like where we're going in, we're doing the work, we have force behind us because we have Mars on our side. And the third water sign is Pisces with Jupiter, and that's where things can start to like transform, and like all of that hard emotional work that you put in has now been like manifest into like the new evolution of whatever that is. So it's kind of nice to go through each element through like what are the three planets related to that sign, and kind of see like how you can feel that the moon with Cancer and how that's so different than like Mars with Scorpio. And Scorpio has this secretive, and I love the idea of that it's very like sharp and like acute, right? Like it's the other sign that Mars rules is Aries, and so that's like fire and explosive, and Scorpio's like gonna go deep and exact, and it's seeking the truth. It can be kind of acute with its tongue, you know, if you have Mercury, which is rules our communication. If you have that in Scorpio, that can kind of give you a harsh communication, or kind of like secretive and not, you know, keeping a guard up and not wanting to let people see the real you. That's the thing with Scorpio. There's this sense of they're afraid of the vulnerability, because as soon as you merge, which is a really good key word for Scorpio, because it's all about creation and merging and transformation. And so it's, you have to create like the yuck, right? Like it's this time of year where like the fields out in my house, everything's dying. But that's creating this rich soil so that when spring comes, like everything's gonna grow so beautifully with all of these nutrients getting all assimilated into the soil. And so there's this sense of like heaviness and like dark and like transformation with Scorpio, but it's like for the alchemy of new life, you know. So it's can bring up senses of like fear and taboo. Kind of a pop culture thing that you always hear is that it has to do with sex, and absolutely, because body systems wise, it rules our genitals and our sex organs, it rules our colon, our rectum. Some ancient astrologers say that it rules the nose. It's like any orifice. It's like a good Scorpio word, orifice, like to get in deep, like where's the opening so that you can get in underneath, you know, just beneath the surface. That's another Scorpio feeling, you know. Mars has a lot to do in body systems with circulation. So in regards to Scorpio, it's a lot of the sex hormones. So if you have hard placements in your chart in relation to either Mars or Scorpio or your eighth house, sometimes you can have issues with fertility, PCOS, different types of progesterone issues, and also just like sexual dysfunction. There can be issues with like erectile dysfunction. Was reading into that, and that there can be a lot of correlation with males with hard Scorpio placements there. And again, some of that is like deeply rooted in like the emotional scarring too. So Scorpio is a fixed sign, that's the modality of it. So it's stubborn. It doesn't like to move. Doesn't like change, and it really likes control, you know? And one thing, I mean, I think this room is probably filled. I mean, my sister, she's got strong Scorpio placements. I see my other sister from another mister over there. She's got strong Scorpio placements. My daughter, me. I mean, I think you kind of attract your tribe too. And there's this sense with Scorpio of like occult and mysticism. And so astrology in general kind of draws that crowd, or anyone that's into alternative healing is very much Scorpio archetype. It's also other people's resources. So there's a sense of like inheritance, or other people, you know, like taxes and like that sort of thing, and sharing values with others. So some other words on more of the shadowy side, we can get into like jealous or uncompromising, but there's also like this staying power with Scorpio, you know. So there's a lot of times you hear about how it's like that honest friend that tells you like maybe not what you want to hear, but what you need to hear. And like, thank goodness for those people, because otherwise we'd be wasting so much time. And it, you know, it comes from that place of love, and just wanting the best for other people. And Scorpios can just, they can see it, man. They see under the surface of it. They don't, it's not, nothing is superficial. And because of like that sense of wanting to merge, I think that this is why it's such a good time of year where we have this, you know, Dia de los Muertos and Samhain and Halloween, and there's this sense of like there's you can, the veil is thin, right, is a key word that you hear, that we can connect with the other side. This is the time to really honor our ancestors, honor our past nationalities bringing those types of practices. You know, we're preparing for the traditional like holiday seasons where we're coming together and sharing food as family. And so kind of, you know, this is the beginning of that, right? Like we can all feel like we're starting to kind of like want to hole up at home and watch those nostalgic movies and types of activities. So one key thing that you can look at in your chart is that Scorpio is opposing Taurus. So depending on what you have going on in the sign of Taurus, if you have some sort of issue going on in your body or something that you want to work through Scorpio-wise, you usually look to the opposite sign. So Taurus is all about simplicity, where Scorpio is about complexity. So usually the way out of a Scorpio issue is through something very simple. You know, it can just be like a simple dietary change. Definitely some sort of like emotional alchemy is definitely like, that's a key, that's a great Scorpio phrase right there, emotional alchemy. You know, going into therapy, EFT, some sort of like movement too, right? Because Taurus is like our body, and because they're fixed signs and it's emotions, like there's this sense of like it's stuck. So if you can use your body with like dance, catharsis, like something that just starts to move emotion through your body. I can tell you as a massage therapist that there's absolute truth to the like that the body keeps the score. There's so much people hold emotions and trauma and all of this in their body, and you can work through it on your own. You can work through it with a therapist. I mean, there's so many different ways to get that going, but EFT is a great thing, and definitely like a Scorpio type of technology, I would say. And I would say another thing is just like really getting into your body too. One last thing I wanted to share before I hand it off to Jen was that I thought kind of looking at Scorpio through the lens of generations is kind of interesting. So I was born with Pluto in Scorpio, and Pluto was in Scorpio from 1983 to 1995. This was related to a generation of sexual revolution, AIDS, global conflict. So you can kind of see how like that time frame and like some of those Scorpio archetypes come through that way. Scorpio and Neptune was 1956 to 1970, and that can be related to a lot of the violent deaths that were going on at that time, addictions. There was definitely that spiritual regeneration going on. And so Neptune has a lot to do with spirituality and that sort of thing. So bringing in Scorpio at that time is just like changing the course. And then 1975 to 1981, Uranus was in Pluto. And that brought in a big boost of interest in the New Age and occultism. There was a big boost in electronic spying and computers, and then uncovering mysteries. I definitely see that in this generation, right? So you can think about like conspiracies, but like how many people are like into like Bigfoot and like all these different things, and like what's going on with the CIA and whatever. So there's definitely that sense of those generations like wanting to uncover the truth, and we want the precise, exact information, you know, and nothing less than that. We're ending an eclipse cycle here, the end of the month, Taurus and Scorpio eclipse. So any prominent Scorpio placements, you may have had really heavy eclipse season the last 18 months with the Taurus Scorpio axis, and it's ending on the 28th with, I think it's 5 degrees Taurus is the lunar eclipse. So finally, it's like this culmination point, and I feel so I've been putting out lots of good vibes for all my fixed people, anyone with a fixed rising sign, Scorpio, Aquarius, Leo, and Taurus. It's been a rough few years between Saturn in Aquarius. It's finally in Pisces, and it's been rough. And finally with this eclipse, I feel like there's going to be a little bit of reprieve for all those fixed rising folks out there. So I'm going to save time at the end in case there's any specific questions. So I'm going to pass it on to you, Jen.
All right. Hey, everyone. So again, I'm Jen, for those of you new here. I love to share cooking and food and family. So I think when Jess and I were talking about Scorpio season, the biggest thing that that resonated with me was how we're always looking for, I don't know if anybody else, but like comfort foods this time of year. And I think to your point, Jess, like you were saying, like you just want to like be in and stay in and take care of your family, eat around the table, come together and celebrate. So I was doing a little bit of research. My husband's, if anybody knows my husband, he's very much like likes these plain foods, and he's always asking for shepherd's pie. And I was like, I don't get where this like call for shepherd's pie is. It's never been like one of my favorites. So I'm actually putting this together. I was kind of sharing with the ladies when I first joined. I love to meal prep at night. Everybody's in bed. It's quiet in my house. I can put on whatever I want to listen to in the background, and I can get dinner ready. And so tomorrow, literally, it'll bake in the oven for 20 minutes and dinner will be done. So for, again, those of you that don't know, I sell a product called Epicure, which is all natural seasonings and spices. And we actually have a shepherd's pie mix. So that's what I used. Shepherd's pie, I actually learned, is supposed to be made with lamb. And that's because shepherds take care of the sheep. So I thought that was a really interesting like thing that I never knew. When you make it with ground beef, which is what I used, it's actually cottage pie. And so I think my husband, who is adopted and doesn't know his ancestral grounds, I think he's like part Irish because he's got the curly hair and the blue eyes, and I don't know. So I'm going with the fact that he's Irish tonight. So I'm making him his Irish shepherd's pie. And so we kind of chatted about, I said, Steve, like when I make shepherd's pie, I always make it kind of like this picture, right? With like peas and carrots and corn and you know, the ground meat and your mashed potatoes and all of those goodies. And he's like, no, Jen, he's like, we use cream corn. And so going against my own traditions that I'm taking on my husband's, and I'm using cream corn, I will, if you follow me on social media, feel free. I will share with you tomorrow what my thoughts are on cream corn and shepherd's pie. If anybody's ever done that, drop the note in the chat. It's something I never heard of before, but again, taking care of the family is really important to me. And one way I can do that is through cooking and knowing that I'm putting something together that he's going to be absolutely thrilled with. So yes, I'm using cream corn, which goes against a lot of my, my better good food judgment. Having been on a health journey, things like this just, you know, don't always sit well with me, but 2 cans of cream corn is what his recipe calls for. So we've got the cream corn. And then I'm just gonna put together some mashed potatoes. And because I work a busy, crazy, hectic schedule, I bought pre-made mashed potatoes. Of course I can make them myself, but you know, sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do to get through the week. As Jeff shared, I came back from North Carolina on Monday, and I've just been in a crazy tailspin with my job. So pre-made mashed potatoes. And because I like to get a little funky and I like to get a little creative, I'm actually going to use, it's a béarnaise sauce. So those of you that like to do fancy French cooking, I can help you with French cooking done easy. Hollandaise, béarnaise, coq au vin, ratatouille, like I've got all sorts of fun French foods, which just speak to my little foodie soul. And so, yeah, so I'm going to use the béarnaise sauce because that's my spin on what I want to put together in the shepherd's pie. So I'm going to season up my shepherd's pie mashed potatoes because it makes life a little bit more interesting than just using plain old mashed potatoes. So I would love to know, I love when people share like what is like when they think of like fall comfort foods, like what would you share is like your fall comfort food? If you feel like coming off mute and sharing, I'd love to hear. I'm always looking for like new recipe ideas. So, or if you want to drop them in the chat too. Who has like their favorite fall comfort food that they want to share?
We've been doing pot roast.
Oh, pot roast. Kimberly, I love pot roast. Do you like carrots and potatoes and all of those goodies? Yum, so good. I saw somebody share chili, and which is so funny because when I was in North Carolina, like my mom this time of year, she always wants chili. And so that was like her ask while we were there was to make chili. I'm sure Jess can share too. Halloween night, when we came home from school, there was a crock pot of chili, and that's what we had every Halloween. Jess, do you remember that one too?
Yeah, chili was my I always think of fall, chili, family.
Yep. Yeah. And so I also am a chili fan. And we'll be sharing again because I'm such a foodie. White chicken chili, taco ranch chili. I actually found a recipe for a spicy peanut chicken chili. So again, follow me on social as I share all sorts of different soups and chili recipes this time of year. I'm in Florida, so yes, it's like 85 degrees and it doesn't feel like fall, really, coming from Chicago. But this time of year, like I want soups and chilies. I don't care if it's 85 degrees outside. So follow me on social because I can't wait to share all of the different types of chilies that I've come across in recipes. So if you are a meal prepper, think about finding time that works for you. I know a lot of people do it on the weekends. I like to prep a meal or two at night a couple nights during the week because now I know that dinner will be ready in less than 20 minutes. And it took me less than 10 minutes here to put together and 10 minutes to make the beef earlier. So like a half hour dinner could be done. So thank you for sharing your fall comfort foods because I haven't made a pot roast yet, Kimberly, and I feel like now that has to be on the menu. So we are leaving lots of time here. So if you have questions about food, kitchen tricks, tips, obviously Jess knows way more about Scorpio than I do. Please ask away. We have lots of time before the Zoom gods will kick us off.
Yeah, I think we got 15 minutes. So if there is
yes.
Grab that. There's anything in particular, shoot away. Let me know.
So just I think there was something you were talking about that I was curious. And it was funny as you were talking. I said, I wonder why she skipped over the mid 70s, like to the 80s. And so you talked about Uranus, right? And how like we're all about the conspiracy theories. And I just thought that was just so resonating. That was something I learned tonight. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, well, when I was going through the exact dates, I thought it was funny because that's the one outer planet configuration that Matt has is the Uranus. And my husband Matthew is such a Bigfoot fanatic. He just eats up all of the videos, and now we live out here in the Appalachia, which that's new for me to even call it that. Now I'm a real native. My mom is all about it too, so they get along great talking about Bigfoot and Sasquatch and all the creatures out there.
See, and I remember growing up, like the first conspiracy, obviously I heard about Bigfoot, but the Loch Ness Monster, right? So I'm like that middle 1981 child and like the end of that. And like, I just remember growing up in like grade school, learning about the Loch Ness Monster. So it must have been that time period, like you said. It's so interesting how like, to your point, like all of those correlations that happen, like with you and Lexi hurting your faces earlier and just how it was just destined, right?
Oh, girl, I was just playing with my software last night because I had I had an astrology client yesterday. We were going over her secondary progressions, and I was like, man, I know that my software can do this so much, like that I could be getting so much more out of it than what I know. Anyone out there, if you have Solar Fire, it's like this amazing software for astrology, and like I know there's so many cool things I could do and make things so much easier, and but there's just not enough tutorials out there, I don't think, on it. So if anyone has any recommendations that knows about it, I would love to know. But there's this animate chart thing, and so I was playing with that last night on my personal chart, and literally the day that we moved out here, June 15th, 2021, was like 3 major secondary progressions happened. I had 2 outer planets because I was born in the late 80s, right? So I have Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune all in Capricorn, and 2 of them stationed retrograde on the exact same day that my progressed moon moved into a new sign. So it was like holy shit, like those are big, big things. And secondary progressions looks at the next 90 days after you're born and slows it way down and stretches the whole day out into a year. So like, and like when the moon moves in, like the moment that it's 0 degrees, 0 minutes, like that's a huge thing. So the fact that was not planning my life around astrology at that time, I was like doing chart readings at that time, but I mean, you can only look at so much. And I feel like astrology, so much of it is validation, like retro, like afterwards, like yeah, I knew I had that Mars transit coming up, but like, what am I going to do? Go like hide away and not live my life? Like, no. But it's so funny that when I look back, I'm like, well, duh, Sunday, Mars was squaring Pluto. I probably shouldn't have done like anything different. And so, it's even with the knowledge that I have, it's like you can't prepare for everything. And part of that is like the fun of life too, is like you don't know how things are going to manifest. And no, it wasn't great, but like the fact that I found like it was exciting to me too. Like I was texting Noelle, I'm like, oh my God, that's so like I was like excited about a rash on my face because there was an astrology story to it. It's so weird. But that's what I find in readings with people is like it's usually not like new information. When you get an astrology reading, you're like, it's like, yeah, 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 yeah. It's very validating. And so part of that can be so healing. And then just kind of like, you're just, that you're just living in the flow of the universe. And that's what it is. It's the language of the ineffable. And it's just being reflected back to us in our reality.
Do you work with the asteroid goddesses?
I'm sorry?
Do you work with the asteroid goddesses?
No, I want to get into Dimitri's work though, right? Isn't she the big one with the, yeah, I listened to some
Yeah,
of
yeah, Demetra
Yeah.
George, yeah.
Yeah, I've listened to
Yeah,
some
she's
of her,
worth it.
yeah, I listened to some of her stuff. I have Chris Brennan's Hellenistic astrology, and I know he's such a big fan of Demetra George and that they worked a lot together. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be really cool. I do feel more called to goddess energy actually, just in the last couple months. I just read the Magdalene manuscripts, and that's that was really cool.
So I was actually just re-listening to a reading that I had a year ago, almost to the day. And it's so cool to hear back like everything they were talking about. And it's like all four of the like major goddesses are on critical points in my chart. So it's like, oh yeah, I have Juno exactly conjunct my moon. I have Ceres conjunct my Saturn, and I'm a Cap rising. So it's like my chart ruler, and then Athena on my ascendant, and who am I forgetting?
Palace.
Or Pallas Athena on my ascendant, and there's another one, and I'm just totally blanking now.
Juno.
But
Oh wait, Juno,
Juno on my moon.
Palace, Ceres, and
Vesta. There we go.
Yeah.
And Vesta is on my sun, which is conjunct my North Node. So it's like, oh yeah, that's sun, moon, rising, chart ruler. All four with a goddess. It's like, yeah. So goddess energy is definitely a thing. And it's like now I've been trying to get more into Athena, especially. Like she's my favorite. So trying to learn more about that. But that's been my thing. I also dabble. Dabble is a kind of a loose word. It's like I'm also practicing astrology. So yeah, that's the thing. I'm actually sitting here with my honeycomb almanac. I'm going the wrong way.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yep. I love that the honeycomb is so great. Do you do yours in the traditional astrology? Like, do you follow all of that, or do you do Western Exodus? Yeah.
Yes. I do a little bit of both. I use the perfections, and they actually, with this update, they have the perfection years in here, but then they also let me have my chart in Placidus. So I'm in a what is it? 7th house perfection year.
Yeah.
And I have a Cancer moon in my 7th house. So
ooh. And so that's even more goddess energy, right? And bringing
exactly.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah,
I love how that works.
Yeah, it's like I have Juno on my Cancer moon, in the 7th house, whatever.
There's such a big revolution of it. I feel like there's so many different like just different accounts and people I follow. It's coming really prominent for sure.
Mhm.
So I'm here for the goddess
Yeah.
energy.
And if it wasn't for Kristen, I wouldn't have learned like half of what I learned. It's like she got me started and
Yeah.
actually got me connected me with the reader who told me about all my goddess energy. And it's like, ooh,
I've been deep in the wormhole for years.
I know there's
That's
so
fun.
many things to learn, right? You could spend lifetimes learning astrology and you'll still never
Yeah, I plan to. I will never know it all, but I'm gonna try to get close.
never stop. I love, Kimberly, that you brought up Athena. I just had an animal totem reading yesterday, and my south animal was owl. My mom
Hmm.
was a little owl. And then it got me thinking, I started reading about Athena. So I was like, that's what, when he said owl, that's what came into my mind was Athena and the white owl. And so it's just more validation, you specifically even bringing her up that, yeah, more reading to be done.
Do it.
Well, cool. Anyone else have any Scorpio things they'd like to share, or any questions, or any eclipse stories? Anyone that wants to share? I mean, anyone that's had prominent either Scorpio, Taurus eclipse stories that are kind of perhaps culminating, or the the Aries Libra started April 20th, and then we just had the second hit, and then that'll be for another about a year and a half. Cool. I know I'm planning a big career change coming up here. So I've been kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out of working for myself and others, and I'm going to be taking the jump, and it's going to be correlating with this eclipse cycle. So I'm really excited to take that jump. Here we go.
Congrats.
Thanks so much.